Y'all, the day has come that we finally get to sit down and get to know each other for real. I know it's been a hot minute and it's a long time coming, but girl, we're here. It's today. It's happening. Y'all, the way that I have been so hesitant to actually sit down and make this video because people on the internet take stuff and they run with it and they will switch it into their own narrative. And like, if I'm gonna do this video, I'm gonna do it the right way and be completely honest with y'all about who I am, who I was, and my truths in life. So first things first, we're gonna start with the basics. How old am I? I'm 25 years old. My birthday is October 4th. I was born in 99. I'm a 90s baby. I claim to be. I don't care if I was born in the last 3 months. I'm still a 90s baby. Don't play with me. I have two beautiful little girls. One is Layla. She is 1.5 years, and the other one is Nicole. She is 4 years old. And then I have a beautiful, amazing, smart, funny, handsome, sexy man. Yeah. We own our home, and I am a stay-at-home mom. Y'all, the number one question that I'm always getting is, how did me and my fiance meet each other? Girl, we met each other in an English class back in 8th grade. Been together since 9th grade. So, there's really nothing special to our story other than we were what you would consider high school sweethearts, for sure. When I say we were high school sweethearts, I don't mean the kind of high school sweethearts that got together and stayed together and never had any problems. I mean the high school sweethearts that would break up 24/7, get back together, or there would be other people involved and we always ran back to each other no matter what. We were very toxic. Our official date of like getting together was November 4th of 2016, but we had been talking for like 1.5 years prior. So like, you know, that's been my man for a while. When it comes to mine and Garris's relationship, it's one of those things that like, yes, it's my favorite, you know what I mean? Our story is my favorite story, but our story has not come easy. There has been a lot of hurt along the way. Another question that I'm constantly getting asked is, what is my birth story with my daughters? I don't know if y'all are ready. My birth story with Nicole was fairly simple. I was having really bad back contractions. In both of my pregnancies, I felt everything in my back, okay? So with Nicole, I went into the hospital because I thought I was in labor. Turns out I really wasn't in labor. I was just having some bad preeclampsia or whatever it's called. So they had to go ahead and admit me, and they went ahead and started Pitocin. I am not one against an epidural. Give it to me. I want it. I don't care to be the bigger person. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with all natural births. Girl, you do you, but it could never be me until it was me. That's a different story. So with Nicole, I felt absolutely nothing throughout the entire birthing experience. Girl, I was sleeping and her head was already popping out of me. So that should go to tell you just how much that epidural kicked in. And my birthing experience with Nicole was a 10 out of 10 with 1,000% do it again. Me and Garris had kids young. I was 20 and Garris was 19 when we first got pregnant with Nicole. Y'all, I beat teen pregnancy, but he didn't. When we first initially found out that we was pregnant with Nicole, of course it was a shock. I don't hold anything against him from that point in my life and in our relationship, because I swear to y'all, he is the absolute world's best dad. He loves our daughters and would do anything for them, but if we are being completely honest, he has not always been there. It took him about a good 3 months after Nicole was born before he finally realized like, oh crap, you know, like that's my kid and I need to be there for my kid. I could be perceived to be the bad person here in this situation, but like when Nicole was born, he was super inconsistent within the first couple of weeks. So I basically cut him off from Nicole, and I informed him that until he was really ready to step up and be a dad, he could not be in her life. And I believe that me telling him that and the decision I made in that moment was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. Some people definitely won't agree with that, and that's completely fine. You do your family how you see fit to do your family. But I knew that it was either going to be you're in her life and you're involved and we don't have to be together, or you're not in her life, and that's fine. I grew up with a single mother, so I kind of understood and knew the struggles that I would go through, but I was willing to do it because what I didn't want was an inconsistent dad in my daughter's life, because I had seen how that affected my sisters growing up. I never knew my dad. I never knew him until I was 19 years old is when I first ever met my dad. And I mean, yes, of course it affected me. I had daddy issues growing up, but like I turned out just fine. Take that information and do what you please with it. But since then, since he decided to step up and be a dad, he has been the absolute best father that I could ever ask for my children. He will give the shirt off of his back to anybody. He is the world's best man, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So in the hospital room with Nicole, it was literally just me and my aunt. And I also gave birth during COVID years. So there wasn't allowed to be anybody else in the hospital room. My aunt had to leave because of course she had work. So at one point it was just me and Nicole because she had jaundice. So we had to stay in the hospital for about 5 to 6 days, I believe. If I'm being so honest, I'm happy looking back now that my aunt had to leave to go to work, because as a new mom and as a young mom, I really needed that time to just be able to bond with my kid. You know what I mean? So like, I'm very thankful for my birthing experience with Nicole. It was a 10 out of 10. I would definitely do it again. Layla? It was a 2 out of 10. Wouldn't do it again. My birthing experience with Layla made me not want to have no more kids. To make a long story short, I was in labor with Layla for about a good 3 days. We had used a different hospital with Layla than we did with Nicole. And that hospital has rules that like, they can't take you unless you're like 90% effaced, 80 or 90% effaced, and like 6 centimeters dilated or something like that. Y'all, for like 3 days, I was 90% effaced and 5 centimeters. And being that I was only like 37, 38 weeks pregnant, they wouldn't admit me unless. We ended up getting a hotel room in Gainesville, which is crazy because Gainesville is only like an hour and a half away from us. But we got a hotel room over in Gainesville, and we just kept going back and forth to the hospital because I was like, there's no freaking way, like, this baby is coming. Them contractions, I thought at the time, were terrible. So the good thing about it is the hospital that we was using was actually the same hospital that my little sister was delivered at. And thank God for me. So finally, on the last night that we ended up going in, I think it was actually like morning, we ended up going in. They had a shift change, thank you Lord, and the doctor on call was Dr. Stewart. So I had already been filled up basically by 2 different other doctors, and they were like, look, you're still only 6 or 5 centimeters, but like, we don't want you going home because you live an hour and a half away, and if you go home you might have this baby on the side of the road, but we also cannot admit you here. Talk about being stuck between a hard place and a freaking rock. Dr. Stewart came in and he was like, look, he said, I cannot send you out of this hospital because of the simple fact that you will have this baby on the side of the road. Do you want to have this baby? No, I don't want to have this baby on the side of the road. I want an epidural as quick as possible. So he was like, so look, I have leadway at this hospital. I've been here for a very long time. Would it be okay if I broke your water? And I was like, do whatever you got to do. Sir, I won't press charges, I promise. So then he was like, well, I have to go talk to people to make sure that it's going to be okay. He said, but like I said, I have a lot of leeway, and the chances that we'll break your water is very high because I just don't feel right sending you home again. You ain't got to tell me twice. So within about 30 minutes, he came back in there and he was like, they moved me to a different room. He broke my water, and as soon as he broke my water, I was like, I want an epidural ASAP. Y'all, my contractions within 3 minutes of breaking my water instantly got so bad. So the person doing the epidural came in there, right? And he was trying to give me my epidural. And I've had an epidural before. Does it hurt? Slightly, but it's not terrible. You know what I mean? I'm good with needles for the most part. But he came in there, gave me my epidural, and for the life of me, I couldn't sit still. And I couldn't sit still because I was in so much freaking pain. Within literally maybe 10 minutes of getting my epidural, Layla was born and she was here. So my epidural did not kick in until after she was already born. That's when my epidural kicked in. Yeah. If you was to ask Garrus about the story, he would be like, oh, she was screaming like, help me, I can't do this. Don't ask him, because he gonna embarrass me every time. But he said that I was saying words I don't ever say in that hospital room. If there was a new mother walking down the halls and she heard me, I probably scared her for life, and I don't even blame her because I was scared. That pain was ridiculous because for the longest time, because I had Nicole, I had a baby, you know, so I thought women were being very dramatic about how it feels to have a baby, because I was like, I had Nicole with no problem at all. Like, it didn't hurt at all. All they had to do was get the epidural. The ones that hurt, they just put themselves through that, you know what I mean? That was very ignorant of me. Very ignorant of me to say. And from here on out, I have nothing but the utmost respect for women having babies with no epidural, because I've been there. And that crap hurts. That's the worst pain in the world. Either I'm dramatic or labor really is that freaking painful. Another question I get asked all the time is, how are you so poor but you have all this stuff? I'm not poor. I know I blew up because I was doing budget-friendly meals, but that does not mean I'm poor. That just means we're being financially smart with our money. You know what I mean? Another thing that people want to know about is how I grew up. And listen, I'm going to talk to y'all about how I grew up, but just know that it's not like the cookie cutter lifestyle that, y'all probably suspected that I had. When I go to tell this, like, it is nothing against my family at all. It's nothing against my upbringing, you know what I mean? But it's just genuinely, it's how I grew up. I grew up with an alcoholic mother. And when I say an alcoholic mother, I don't just mean like, oh, she had a couple of drinks every now and then. Like, no, my mom was a true alcoholic. If you grew up with a parent that had substance abuse, that's another thing she struggled with, was substance abuse. But if you grew up and had a parent that struggled with either or, at the end of the day, that it doesn't matter how you perceive your life was shit. There's a lot of times in my life that my parent would put a drink over her kids. And as a mom now, I can't even imagine doing that to my children. I was also the kind of mom that was your best friend. She would rather be your best friend than your parent. So of course, as a kid growing up, I loved that and I took advantage of it all the time. I was a head bad. Me and Mary, we went together like this, okay? I also got into partying at a very, very young age. And if I could go back and change that, I would, because I put myself in a lot of situations that could have been very unsafe at the time. But of course, I had a parent that didn't much care. You know what I mean? She just let me do whatever I wanted to do as long as I continued to be on her side. Of course, what kid is not going to take advantage of that? When you're a child and you have upbringing that is not the best in the world, you don't see anything wrong with the way that you're being raised until you get older and have children of your own. Then it's like, you shouldn't have been doing that. My grandparents basically raised me from the time I was born until now. I feel like sometimes still they're still raising me. At the end of the day, I don't hold anything against her because I'm a grown adult. I know right from wrong, and I'm not going to let the decisions of my childhood and the way that my childhood was force me to be this person that I'm not, this person that I know is wrong. To an extent, I'm very thankful for the stuff that I went through when I was growing up. And the reason for why I say that is because I genuinely believe that if I didn't go through that stuff growing up, I don't know the kind of parent that I would be. And I am the parent that I am today because of the stuff that I went through growing up. Before I got pregnant with Nicole, I genuinely believed that I was going down a very bad path in my life. And like, when people hear me say that, I don't think they truly understand or grasp what I'm saying. At this point in my life, my mother was doing very strong substances, and I feel as though I was kind of like right there with her. Now, what I can say is I never have and never will try anything other than Mary Jane, but it's just the fact that I was just sitting right there with her, like watching her do it. So like, who's to say I wouldn't have, you know what I mean? So like, I feel as though when I got pregnant with Nicole, she literally saved my life. And when I tell people that, they kind of look at me like, oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, my kid saved my life too. No, I don't think y'all understand what I mean. When I found out I was pregnant with Nicole, I made the decision right then and there that she was not going to live the same life that I lived growing up. And I was going to give her the best life I could possibly give her. I didn't want her, growing up, moving from home to home, living out of trash bags, basically, because she never knows what place is her home. I didn't want her growing up with her grandparents raising her. I didn't want her growing up watching me be so drunk I couldn't even walk straight. I didn't want her growing up having to fight me over my keys whenever I decided to get too drunk. I didn't want her growing up watching what substances can do to somebody. I didn't want her growing up wondering whether or not she was ever really loved. I didn't want her growing up wondering, am I enough? I didn't want my kids growing up like that. I refused for my children to grow up like that. A lot of people are always like, oh, you got pregnant so young. I bet that just ruined all of your plans. I had no plans in life. I was going nowhere. No, it didn't ruin not a single plan of mine. In fact, it saved me from plans that was going to lead me down a rough path in life. My whole family was so scared that I was going to have postpartum depression really bad. And the only thing I can really say about it is I went into that hospital room to give birth to Nicole that day suffering from really bad depression to coming out of that hospital room being the happiest person ever, because that little girl, she changed my life. You don't know what it's like to really be loved until you have your own kids. And like, that statement is so true. Y'all, I don't consider myself to be the perfect mother, but I do consider myself to be the mother that never stops trying. Another thing that a lot of people are curious about is, how did my family react to me being with my partner? And let me just say this, my family absolutely loves him. Coming from a small town with the views of you can't date outside of your race, you're a disgrace, this, that, and the third, of course, you know what I mean, my family's gonna hop on board that trend. Me, baby, I knew I liked darker people from the time I was in 3rd grade, because my first ever crush was on a boy named Brandon. He was so handsome. It was always just, you just don't date outside of your race. Like, white people date white people, black people date black people. It's just how it was. My family thought that that was the case until they ran into me. Because at the end of the day, the only advice that I ever have to give to anybody, and the same advice that I even tell my cousins now, is at the end of the day, you are the person living your life. You don't live your life to please others. You live your life to please yourself. You do what you want to do in your life that's going to make you happy. Who cares what other people say? Because at the end of the day, they're not the ones living your life. So of course, when my family found that I was dating Garrus, it was this huge thing. I got kicked out at the age of 16 years old. After the course of like 9 weeks, my grandmother let me come back home, because even she then was like, yeah, why are we acting like this? Like, why are we being this way? And then after the course of about 2 years, everybody else in the family finally was like, there's no reason for us to act this way. Like, they realized how ignorant it was of them, and they finally just let it go. You know what I mean? They never bullied me for it or anything. They just was against it. It was something that you don't do. And in the small town that I live in, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of hate from it, from grown-ass people. Grown-ass adults. I live in the kind of small town where like grown adults think that it's okay to be in a child's business and run their mouth about a child. That right there should tell you enough. Definitely growing up in a small town is BS when it comes to dating outside of your race. But hey, it is what it is, and at the end of the day, like I said before, I'm gonna live the life that's gonna make me the happiest, because I only have one life to live, and I'm not here to live my life for anybody else. The other thing I get asked all the time, or get told all the time, is that my family is starving. No. I feel like people on the internet lack common sense, and they tend to forget that most people eat 3 meals a day and multiple snacks throughout the day. Or is that just my family? I don't know. Anyways, I feel like people definitely lack that common sense though. The amount of comments I get that like, oh, you're starving your kids don't eat enough. Huh? The plates that I do make my kids that y'all see, they don't eat all of it. My kids are picky eaters. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. If they don't like it, I try to make something else that I know they'll like. And even if it's something that they like, they might only take 4 bites of it and be done. Y'all, another comment that I get all the time is, you're so relatable. I hope you never change. I do. I hope I change. I think the way that I look at it is, people consider me to be relatable because I don't have this big fancy house, and I don't have this, I don't have that, and I cook budget-friendly meals. Y'all, I hope I'm not always living this life. Don't get me wrong, I love my life, but I also live a life that involves money. Like, I can't be the only one. I can't. Like, I hope that I'm not always living this life. Now, granted, will my personality change? Will who I am as a person change? No. But like, when y'all eventually see a white kitchen and a white living room and a house that's put together and no more green carpets, that doesn't mean I'm not relatable anymore. That just means I'm doing good in life. I feel like people should be happy about that and proud, but I just am already starting to get hate because of it. And it's like, that's insane to me. Another thing I get asked all the time is, how has TikTok changed my life? Well, it hasn't. To an extent, it has. Financially wise, it definitely has. That y'all are always wondering, like, what do I make? Although I'm not going to tell y'all the full exact number, but what I will say is, in the past 2 months alone, I have made 5 digits. More than I ever did in a year's salary working an actual job. I literally worked at a grocery store, so it's not like I was making that much anyways. So financially, it has changed a lot. I used to always be like, my fiance always had money in the bank, but I was always the one that like, I hardly ever had anything in the bank. Now I always have money in the bank, always. But like, other than that, really nothing has changed. Like, my life hasn't really changed. Another thing is, people want to know like wedding updates so bad, and like, I don't want to give it all away, but what I will say is we are going with emerald green, gold, white, and black are our colors for the wedding. The wedding date is obviously September 20th. We set the bridal shower date for August 9th, and then our rehearsal is, of course, September 19th. And so far, we have been able to pay for our whole wedding at the moment from all the money that I've been making on TikTok. But you got to keep in mind, too, like, we're not doing this huge extra wedding. It's not going to be extra at all. It's going to be simple, but still very pretty and elegant. My wedding dress is not a $2,000 wedding dress. It was $200. So another thing people want to know is like how I blew up. Girl, I don't even know. I have been posting on TikTok for really about 3 years, but I had a whole other TikTok page. I created this TikTok account about 1.5 years ago, and I've been posting on here pretty consistently for about 1.5 years. In March is when I blew up. So, and it was literally a video that I thought nothing of, a video that I have done before, and it blew up and got millions of views. So, and then the very next day I posted a makeup challenge that blew up. So I technically blew up over 2 things, one being a cooking video and the other being a makeup video. So I don't think there's no set way to go viral on TikTok. I think it just happens. What I can say to you is, yes, you need to 1000% be consistent all the time. Consistency does help. And then the other thing I would have to say is you need to be yourself. You cannot come on this app acting like other creators, because at the end of the day, you're not going to go nowhere. People like seeing people be themselves. And that's what I am. I'm unapologetically myself. Another question I get all the time is, has it been hard to keep up with since you've blown up? And the answer to that is 1000% absolutely yes. It's been so hard to keep up with. I have probably missed out on thousands of dollars because I don't really know how to negotiate. I don't really know how to talk to brands when they're talking to me. I don't know how to pitch myself. There's so much that I don't know about this life, really. So like, I've missed out on a lot of money, and I've missed out on a lot of opportunities. Some because of my own arrogance, some because of me lacking knowledge, and then others because I just get so many emails a day that like, it's hard to keep up with all of them, and I don't see all of them in time. That's really like everything. Like, those are really like the main comments and the main questions that I have seen. I hope that it was enough. If it's not, I guess just ask me more questions, and I can always do like a part 2 or another video. Like, I have 350 something thousand followers on TikTok, and those are the most asked questions I see all the time. So with that being said, I'm fixing to throw my hair up in a messy bun. Gotta go wake my kids up, because if not, we're gonna be late. Gotta go. Bye.